What's up, you guys? My name is T, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to tell my own personal healing story, right? So, I gave you a brief introduction and interlude as to why I started the Healing Over Everything movement, but I never actually told my healing story. I believe that we all have a healing story, and I'm going to share mine today. So I mentioned briefly in my previous video about the death of my son, which actually really started me on this journey, really consciously started me on the journey. I feel like I've always been on a journey to be a better human and to heal from the things of my past. I believe that we'll constantly heal because there's always things going on, right? I always say that we are the sum of the things that we've seen, heard, and experienced. And we'll constantly see, hear, and experience things, right, that will cause us pain, devastation, trauma, and we'll have to heal from it, you know? So it's an ongoing process. However, so my own personal healing story started in 2017. So in 2017, I was going about my life as always, nothing out of the ordinary. You know, you go to work. I had two beautiful adult children who I would talk to often, and we would actually have a weekly ritual on Sundays where we would always spend Sunday together. They would come to my home. I would cook dinner, me and my husband at the time, and we would have our family day on Sunday. So just the typical family of four, nothing out of the ordinary. And on January 4th of 2017, I was actually at work. And like I said, just going about my day, nothing out of the ordinary, because it was right after the new year. I had to work. My husband at the time was off because he was in education, and drove to work, going about my day. And I go to have lunch. I don't remember exactly what time it was, but I went downstairs into our little break room or cafeteria. And at the time, me and my husband at the time were sharing a phone. And I had the phone with me because we had a house phone. And if I needed to communicate with him, I could do it that way. So I had his phone with me and went downstairs, you know, get something to eat, grab a snack out of the vending machine. And I checked the phone. And I see that there is a phone number that I'm not familiar with, and there's a voicemail message. And I call the number. So it's a police officer, whatever the case may be. And they tell me, okay, well, where are you? You know, we're gonna come to your job and tell you something, right? So I'm thinking now, previously my son had been in a little bit of trouble, and I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe he just got in a little bit of trouble. You know what I mean? But my heart and my spirit is like, oh my God, what's going on, right? So kind of fast forward, because the story is the story, but kind of fast forward, what happens is I rush upstairs to my supervisor, who I'm really close with at the time, actually my director, and I say, I got this phone call. I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know what's going on. It's about my son. They didn't give me any information, but they said they're coming up. So she came with me. She took me into kind of a little room in the human resources department to wait, and I'm praying like, Lord, and I'm trying to just relax myself and calm myself, and I'm trying to listen to the voice of God. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to, and at that time, I'm like, okay, everything's okay, but this is my voice that I'm hearing, right? So we're in the waiting room. It's taking a little bit of time for them to get there. And then we end up moving from the human resources department downstairs to the break room. Because she said, if they come in, we don't want, people looking to see what's going on. So we're going to take you downstairs. It was a separate part of the building that no one had access to. So we went downstairs. and they showed up. So two policemen showed up, and you know, they came in, and these words are the words that haunt me even to this day. They said, "We regret to inform you that your son Elijah Holden was killed in an automobile accident this morning at 3 something in the morning." And you know, you see that kind of stuff on TV, and you know how, you know, the people fall out, and I didn't. I just kind of sat there, and I was like, okay. And they explained everything to me, and you know, I'm just at the state of shock. I'm really just kind of just sitting there like, okay, all right. So I had to call my husband, and he came up there because I'm like, I can't tell him this. So I'm going to need the police officers to tell him. So he came in, you know, after a while he came into the room. They said the same exact thing they said to me, and you know, my husband kind of fell back in his seat, and you know, they gave us some information, wrote down some phone numbers, whatever, and they left. And at the moment, I didn't know what shock looked like or felt like, or never had a, you know, a situation in my life where I experienced shock, but I was so disconnected yet connected from what was going on. So the disconnected part of me, I can't even explain really to this day. But I kind of really sprung into action, and this has happened to me in my life previously before, where something devastating happened. And there's a part of me that just clicks into action. I guess it's the mother in me, the nurturer in me, I don't know. So, but yeah, that situation has been to date the most devastating thing of my life. To lose my son. My son, his name was Elijah. My son was more than a kid to me, right? Like, he was 21, he was full of life, he was very outspoken, he was extremely kind, he was talented. Everything that he wanted to do or thought he wanted to do, he just could do it. He could play golf, he could play basketball, he could play football, he could dance, he could rap. He was just so talented. There was nothing that I ever saw him try to do that he couldn't do. And he was extremely intuitive as well. And he knew his mama, right? Like, he knew when I was happy, he knew when I was sad, he knew when I was sick. He was just very attentive to me, and we had a wonderful relationship, and we had deep, long conversations. And to lose him was devastating. Like, when you lose a person that you know is ill or that they're older, you expect it, you have the time to prepare, and you know, you can do all of the things. But when it's sudden and it's unexpected, it's like you don't really know how to process it. And I didn't for many years. But I knew I had to, right? I knew that I had to pull myself out, because at that moment, even though I had another child, my daughter, she's everything to me. She's amazing. She's perfect. Both of my children were perfect. I still grappled with wanting to remain in this life after losing him, right? Like, I was just like, there's no reason. There is absolutely no reason for me to be here. So there was depression, there was suicidal thoughts, there was just the grief process, the ebbs and flows of grief. Like, you know, you have to go through all the steps. You know, they tell you the process and the steps of grieving. Like, you absolutely have to go through them. You absolutely have to go through them in avoidance, or not avoidance, but what is it? Where you, I can't think of it right now. My brain is just, and I didn't write any notes or anything for this. I was just like, I'm gonna tell my story. But yeah, but just the thoughts of like, oh, it's not true, right? I had to, and that was the devastating part of it. Like, I knew I had to, I knew I had to accept it. That's acceptance. So I knew I had to accept it. So every morning I woke up, I had to remind myself that he wasn't there. And that was like a blow every morning. Almost like, you remember the show 50 First Dates, and he had to basically, he thought he was getting her to remember him, but she really just didn't remember him. But I had to remind myself every day, every morning when I woke up, Elijah's not here. He's not here. He's gone. Forever gone. Can you imagine? Like, that's trauma on top of trauma. Like, oh my goodness. So there's depression, there's suicidal thoughts, there's the grief process, there's the trauma, there's the triggers. You know, for years, if I saw any little black boy, I was, listen, on the floor. Do you hear me? Just, I remember watching the TV show The Chi and the little boy on there. And I watched it for, you know, all through the seasons, and it got to like season 4 or 5, I think it was. I can't, it might have been 4. And, you know, he was growing up and, you know, you see it, but it's like that next episode, he was a big boy and he was a little black boy, a little dark-skinned black boy. And I could not watch that show after, because he just, my little baby, my little boy, he was just the cutest little chocolate man, you know what I'm saying? And seeing that little boy, I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I feel like I'm rambling, and I'm not really maybe coming to a concise point, but basically my story is that, you know, so I lost my son in January of 2017, and several months after, I went through another major devastation and major loss. Having to go back to work and not having the capacity really, because, you know, even though I went back to work in the month of, I believe it was late May, June, it was still like my son died the day before. So I was still very much in it. So I couldn't work. So I lost my job, and I loved my job. Loved my job. Loved it. So I lost my career. I lost my son. And then my marriage of over 20 some years was completely torn apart. And I lost my husband. And I lost friends, which still I didn't quite understand, but I lost friends that I had been friends with from childhood. And then I lost really close friends that I had connected with in my adult life. And all of this loss happened from January 2017. And I had lost all of those things that I just mentioned by July of 2017. So everything that I knew, everything that made me happy and gave me peace and joy and comfort and stability and, you know, support, everything that I had known up until that time, I had completely lost. So can you imagine losing everything that you've known to be? My mother was diagnosed with dementia and was no longer able to communicate. So that's my mom, my job, my son, my husband. You know what I mean? Like everything, and having to recover from that. Think about it. Like I had to not only accept all those things, because acceptance is the first step. I had to accept the loss of it all. And then I had to repair my heart, repair my soul, my spirit, my mind, and prepare myself to recover, and then start the recovery process. Like, Devastated, devastated. And I never thought in a million years that I could recover from one of those things, let alone all of them. But I'm here and I'm on the path and I'm on the journey and I'm committed to it, right? Like I really am committed to it, and it's hard. It's hard because all of these things are a constant right now. They're present. Like I have to accept them and deal with them and walk out the steps. But I can honestly say that to date, on February 29th of 2024, that I have joy, that I have peace, that I am supported, that I am comforted, that I have stability. Like everything has been restored to me. And I still want more. Like I'm fighting for, not for what I had, because those things can't be replaced. Nothing that I lost can be replaced. But I believe God will restore me to a better place than I was before, right? I really believe that. I really believe that restoration is possible and that I'm on the road. But I'll always be healing. I'll constantly be healing for the rest of my life. And I understand that. And I'm okay with that. But I'm here. And I've tried a lot of things, and a lot of things have worked for me. And those are the things that I'm going to share with you. And the processes that I've gone through and the things that I've learned about myself in the process of healing. Like I thought I knew myself before, but now I am well aware. I'm fully confident in who I am and who I want to be and who I'm striving to become. And I'm thriving. I'm thriving, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the journey and for the path that I'm on. And I'm willing to be a resource and support to other people. But I'm going to stop rambling because I feel like that's what I'm doing. But I appreciate you guys for listening and for tuning in and for watching. And I hope that you'll continue to come back, and not just come back to listen to my story, but share yours, right? I want to know your healing story. I want to know what you've done to overcome. And I want us to celebrate ourselves and each other together. And yeah, so I'll talk to you guys real soon.